met in a radio personality listener capacity. I mean, that's how we met each other. So, you know, even more so for her respect, it might not be as intrusive as it might be for another woman who maybe you were high school sweethearts or you just happened to meet through happenstance, and it turned out later that she became almost as much of a personality as you did by virtue of being on your show.
Sure.
For me, when I say it's disconcerting and a little uncomfortable, it's more like, I mean, I guess I just consider myself to be an average guy with a job, you know, as opposed to, you know, I'm a big-time radio guy. I mean, I just don't really buy into that at all. I mean, you know, I still have to mow the lawn and grout the tub like every other married guy out there, and you know, to me, that's, I'm more satisfied with that than the idea of having my face on a bus.
See, I enjoy it more. For instance, just before I got here, I stopped over at McDonald's, and I'll do this all the time. I'll go through a drive-through, and when they tell me the price of my meal, I'll say to them, "But I'm John O'Brien from Rock 102. What can you do for me?"
Right.
So you know, oftentimes that works out
Give me
well.
grimace and Mayor McCheese. I haven't talked this price down.
Even the 39-cent hamburgers, I was able to get down to 27 cents.
Wow. See, I should try that now. See, but that, most of the people who work at McDonald's in Ludlow are from the Orchard, so it wouldn't work for me. They don't get the channel. They don't get the channel over here. Now, you guys, I think, were voted in the Valley Advocate as being one of the best political...
We have finally made it.
Superstar.
Chip, when that happens to you, we'll take your calls again.
And I just want to say, not one of the best, but
the best.
The best.
Oh, yeah.
The best.
Out of the whole field of all the local...
After 5 years of not winning, for some ridiculous reason, we won that thing.
Well, we found out that the secret, obviously, was simply to have Dan York shipped out of town and sent off to somewhere else, and then the award would rightly be
Now, what was the actual award? Was it like political talk?
No, it was
or just talk
best radio personalities of the Springfield Advocate.
Okay.
Valley Advocate, a little more broad. We did not win. We came in second place, but
the disappointing
Springfield
part
Advocate,
was
we won.
last year they had whittled it down to the best morning personalities on Fisher Avenue in East Long Island, and we still lost.
We
still came in second place.
Oh, man.
Kid operating a radio station out of his basement.
The little hand-mounted
Had
radio.
2 batteries and a whole bunch of copper wire.
And he took it from us.
Yeah, and now look at him. The kid's...
Now he owns our station. He
Yeah.
actually bought us.
But there's one, you know, I do listen to the... I told you before the cameras came on, I used to be on the board of selectmen here in Little, so I'm kind of, I follow the local political scene, and you guys have Mayor Albano on quite a bit, and some other people on a regular basis.
But that's not a big coup because Albano was doing the kids show from the basement. He'll do any radio. Doesn't matter.
Was that the kid that walked to school when the kid was at the when he did that?
Yeah.
But you certainly, you know, maybe Bax is a little more laid back, or maybe you do the good cop, bad cop thing where you kind of lay into him and say, you know, the baseball stadium is this, and I feel this way about it, Mr. Mayor. But is that, was that your intention to kind of just lay into him and pick up things?
Well, you know, the part, we talked about this a little bit briefly earlier, and we haven't really gotten a whole hell of a lot into it. The idea of doing a morning show is that there are roles also. The characters of the show, or the personalities of the show, have roles. And there is a person who does this and a person who does that. And, you know, for instance, there's Nikki Reed who does news. And my tendency is to be more of the abrasive, button-pushing type of an individual. And again, as far as acting is concerned, there are some people who have to act to pull that off. It just so happens that I am an abrasive, button-pushing type of individual. So for me, it's natural. And when a guy like Mayor Albano comes on, or, you know, we have a much friendlier relationship, but it's just as much fun and conflicting sometimes with Dave Ratner, who's on the show once a month. You know, I can have an ability to be able to push a person's buttons without necessarily getting them to want to kill me. I mean, Mike Albano is a perfect example. He's a guy who comes on who knows I'm going to do nothing to bust him for 15 minutes, and yet he calls again the following Wednesday. You know, this is not offensive to him. He's not being insulted by it. He knows his role in the interview as well.
I think it's important to point out the words "not necessarily."
Right.
Because there's certainly many who do.
Sure. And some who've tried. But Mike Albano is a very different example because we've had mayors on before, and I'm not going to bother naming names, but I don't really think yourself excluded, that politicians and personalities often mesh. A lot of times, in my experience anyway, politicians are not highly personality driven. You know, they're good politicians. Mike Albano is a good conversationalist. He's got a sense of humor, and he doesn't mind getting ridden on the rails every once in a while.
A lot of politicians are more interested in dealing with issues and being very focused on one thing. I mean, we've talked to Senator Kerry a couple of times. But people who, I know, but people who know Senator Kerry say, oh, he's got a great sense of humor. Well, we've had him on the show a couple of times, and he only wants to talk about one thing. And when you arrange an interview with Senator Kerry, his office says he only wants to talk about one thing. So, you know, it's hard to get that out of him.
So you've got to agree to talk about that one thing if you want to actually have him on the show.
Right.
We tell him that, and then when he comes on, we make it
ignore
completely
that
different.
completely. Mike Albano, on the other hand, understands that in many respects, our show has been a real positive for him, as much as his presence has been a real positive for us.
We basically are solely responsible for him getting reelected.
Absolutely, yeah.
And he would tell you that he's solely responsible for us still being on the air.
For us getting the ratings that we have for the last 5 years.
That's exactly
He
it.
doesn't know any better.
But you guys do have the, I mean, like you say, you're a local guy, so you have a good sense of what the history is around here and what has worked in the past. And I mean, you talked about the whole riverfront development thing, and it's been talked about for 40 years.
Yes, that's the important part of any of the interviews that we do with Mike Albano. You know, he likes to accuse me of getting all my information from right-wing conspirators rather. And the truth is, yeah, I've been here for 40 years. I've been hearing these promises, and the only thing I've seen is Monarch Place and Tower Square. Those are the only two things that are monumentally new about Springfield since I've been a kid. And that doesn't mean that there have not been improvements. There certainly have been, and there certainly has been progress. But when you're looking from a strictly visual, what really stands out about the city kind of thing, it's always very slow, it's very arduous, and nothing moves quickly.
They did recently change all the light bulbs outside the Mardi Gras, so that is new.
Did you notice that? Really?
Yeah, that is new.
You still are able to recognize those things? Even
Sometimes you drive around Dwight Street, you just can't help but notice all the lights.
Oh, that one. I thought he was talking about New Orleans.
Oh,
I got
different
a
one.
confused.
Different
I
one.
didn't realize that.
The other Mardi Gras that got the name recognition.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, and I don't even know why I'm going to bring this up, but you guys have talked
Mardi
about
Gras section of the interview now?
Yeah.
Now we talk about strippers.
You brought us right to the hooker and stripper section. But the Gold Club, you guys have talked about this before on the Burnett Road. I heard you guys talk about this a little while ago, about the pending problems that they've had over there, and you know, thank God that place is not in Ludlow. It's a Chicopee place, but you're a Chicopee guy now.
It could easily be a Ludlow place if you just move that line up so you can drive a little bit.
No, we have not. It's not going to open anyways. But
tell you what, if they don't get their liquor license, they will open in Ludlow. They'll find a way.
That's true. That's right in this room, maybe.
We actually had a tour of the place, and this is before the bar was going and the strippers were there, and they invited us to go. And we said, okay, what the heck? We went. It's a beautiful place. In fact, even if you removed all the dancing there, it'd probably be one of the nicest clubs in the area.
Nice wedding hall, maybe,
or happens to
could be a wedding hall.
Have a baptism there.
Well, you could. It just happens to have exotic new dancing.
That's right.
Yeah.
Not yet,
which is probably what's killing that place.
Right. But my point being in that you always kind of weren't the biggest fan of Chicopee for years.
Yeah.
You know, it was a personality thing. It was part of the ratings, but and now you live there. You reside in the community, so
which destroys my credibility completely.
Right.
John is an enormous hypocrite.
Right.
That's exactly right.
The truth of the matter is, and it's funny how sometimes this acting thing that we do can be taken so seriously. That began simply as a joking issue because my wife's family was from Chicopee, and as we were dating, I would make fun of the town. She would tell me the stories of her growing up, and I would have some fun with it, and I would have some fun at her siblings and her parents' expense. And it was strictly for their entertainment. It wasn't necessarily meant to entertain the audience on a whole. And it began to snowball, and people would call me and say, "What do you got against Chicopee?" And I would jokingly tell them, 3 or 4 things that I thought were very hee-haw-esque. And again, it was like a snowball coming down a mountain. Truth of the matter was, I think I knew all along, deep in the back of the recesses of my mind, I eventually was going to be living there because my wife wanted to go back home. Truth be told, we made a great move. I mean, I love being there. The neighborhood I'm in is great. The city is actually much better than what I was used to.
Yeah, the Springfield from Chicopee move was quite a homecoming,
Yes,
you can imagine.
sure.
Oh,
Oh,
sure.
yeah, I wasn't...
Open arms, were they?
Oh, there was no ticker tape parade. I'm still waiting for that. But
You've refocused yourself now on Palmer. You seem to
Palmer
be
is what
beating
I
Palmer
should have
down
been
there.
beating on from the very beginning. Because if you've ever been in that
Yeah.
town,
Oh, yeah.
you know that,
They have no excuses.
Yeah.
They have no excuses at all.
Just leave us alone. Leave Ludlow alone.
You think you want the Gold Club not to come to Ludlow? How about if the Wolf's Den
Yeah.
relocated to
Yeah.
Ludlow, huh?
That would, half the jobs in Palmer would be gone if they moved. That's right.
And that again is the very same thing it was when the focus was on Chicopee. It's let's pick a town that we can have fun with at the expense of its population. But the fact of the matter is we have a great deal of listeners in Palmer, and 90% of them understand that this is a joke. And by Palmer's math figures, the other 30% is probably upset by it. But you know, what are you going to do?
Well, just leave Ludlow alone. We're good people over here.
I don't know anything about Ludlow.
Oh, that's
There's
good.
nothing
Let's
to
keep
make
it that
fun
way.
of. You
Keep
know,
it
I
that
know
way.
about one cop who apparently wants everybody to believe he's a sergeant. But other than that, I don't really know anything about Ludlow that I can have fun with.
Not even going to go there because he might be watching tonight. So this is on. But, I mean, that's about all the questions I had. I want to thank you guys really for taking the time out of your busy schedules. I know you being a new father, you probably run home and have to take over the duties of fatherhood.
It's the word duty that really is
The biggest part of his day.
part of my day.
Really? Well, I'm not going to go where I wanted to go. My mother's watching, like I said. But,
Yeah.
but
You know, I have the same problem. He's not from here, so he doesn't have to worry about that issue. His wife is not from here. He doesn't have to worry.
Right.
She doesn't have to worry about that issue. My mom is still here.
And
I have to worry about what I say on the air because I don't want to call from mom.
do you ever get comments like that from the family, like saying?
I've been told on a number of occasions that, in fact, before he passed away, my 89-year-old grandfather once told me one day that because I was on the morning show at Rock 102, more radios had been sold in the Pioneer Valley than ever before. This was from an 89-year-old man, and I said, "Oh, is that right?" And he said, "Yeah, I sold mine, and most of the rest of the family sold theirs." So, there are times where nothing is said, but I can sense that I've said something recently on the air that Mom didn't agree with, and I'm getting the old cold shoulder.
The room gets quiet.
Oh, yeah.
Dinner.
And she's the only person offended by the things that come out of his
No,
mouth.
but Mom's obviously the one you worry about the most.
Sure,
you know?
absolutely, no question about it. But really, thank you guys very much. It's Mike Baxendale, actually. I almost introduced you as Dave Baxendale.
That would have been wrong.
And it's actually
John
Mickey
O'Brien.
O'Brien.
Mickey O'Brien?
Yeah, I just
Okay.
said John for that.
Oh, yeah, well, whatever works, whatever gets the ratings.
And
But
Chip can't possibly be your real name.
it's a God-given name.
No, go on
I
now.
was born with.
Chip.
On the ballot, I was known as, actually, James Chip Harrington. Was
James,
the, yeah.
you see?
Right,
You see?
exactly.
Chip.
I do have another name.
Right.
But, well, thanks again very much for coming in. For those of you at home, I'm sure if you're just tuning in, please tune in again on Sunday night when this is going to be reshown, and make sure you catch it from the beginning, because it's, these two guys are personalities in this area that will be here for many years to come, I hope, and they've got a good chemistry going. So.
And don't forget to stay tuned to coming up afterwards, Ludlow Cable Access's coverage of the Summer Olympics live from Sydney. That'll be
exactly
very
right.
special.
And just like David Letterman, I'm going to send my mother over there to have her broadcast. But please tune in next week, because we're going to be, hopefully next week, we did a ride-along with one of our police officers, not the one that John was
That phony sergeant?
Yeah, not the one John was referring to earlier, but we spent a night with Officer Lou Tulik from the 4 to 12 shift, and we had a camera along. It was kind of cops Ludlow style. So
Wow.
it was kind of,
How many horse rustling cases did you have to handle for that night?
No, actually, no. It was actually it was a good night. Actually, we picked a good night to be there. So we're going to try to edit the whole thing together and have it ready for you guys.
You rough anybody up?
For next week. Did I? No, I stayed in the car. I
You
didn't
get to watch any roughing up?
No, we don't do that in Ludlow.
You don't tune people up in this town?
Oh, no.
You got to come to
Springfield.
Springfield. Yeah, come to Springfield.
Actually, one of our officers from Ludlow transferred to Springfield just for that opportunity.
Yeah, well,
there wasn't enough in Ludlow for him, but that's going to be hopefully next week if we can get everything edited together in time. But until next time, we'll see you very soon around our town.
Why don't you tell your dreams to me?
Good, nice job.
Nice job.
Thank you for inviting us. We enjoyed that.
We didn't bore you with our talking.
Yeah, but that was all script. There was a word of truth in that entire hour.